Be nice to get my 5th win and kind of tie up with Chikari. So I'm back joint first as person who's won it the most times. I don't want to be just second for the rest of time.
I'll kill you, Guns.
Oh, again!
That is a kill.
My name is Henk Reinga. I'm ADBM, the support player for BTX. I love playing official games. I think it's always really fun. It's really that moment where everything comes together and you really get to play the real pure game. Everyone's in the zone, everyone's focused. I just love playing those games.
Haven't been able to translate things. It's 1-for-1 in towers. They all look in mid now.
Good flash. That is one dead Orianna.
Right now, I think our practice is going very well. So at the very least, I think there's no way we don't make it out to the playoffs. So I'm as confident as I could be.
There's a combo.
And this is such a filthy fight for Singular.
I'm definitely looking forward for the next games, and I'm really looking forward to possibly making it to the finals. I think we're winning this split.
XL close out in style.
Welcome everybody to the NLC. My name's Scoundrel here, joined by Gulbug and Foxdrop for week 3 of our spring split. Before we get into, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Telio, MasterCard, and El Giganten. And of course, if you guys want to get involved at home, before I bring my beautiful analysts in, we have our Play of the Day votes, which you can go and find on our social media channels. Make sure that you go and head to all of our social media channels, NLC LOL on pretty much any of them, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, you'll find us. And we are doing our RP giveaways through those channels. So make sure you go and check them out. Lots of RP to give away, ramps up throughout the weeks. It is a good chance to get your hands on some free skins over the course of our tournament. If I'm a little subdued today, guys, I apologize. My throat has not quite recovered from tonsillitis. So I do have these beautiful analysts here to help me out, Gulbug and Foxdrop. And of course, I'm happy to welcome Foxdrop back to the desk. We haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. I know you're a bit fresh off all the higher level league content that you've been consuming and doing, Foxy. So I'm ready to bring you into the NLC. Okay, guys. Let's have a look at... Oh, wait a second, actually. I've realized I can't yet jump into today because we do have a video that Jamada has prepared for us for the new patch that we're on. So let's have a look at that video and we can check it out and see where we are with the new patch, and then we can start to talk about today.
This patch in general wasn't really that big. I think the biggest thing to actually happen was the prominence and rise of this new Moonstone Renewer plus, I think it's Staff of Flowing Water. I always get the name a little bit wrong. But the Moonstone Renewer item is incredibly powerful. It's very gold efficient.
Big heal off on Mihabaros, but the shutdown is there eventually.
Honestly, the numbers that you can get out of some of these earlier fights are pretty wacky. And then with the Staff of Flowing Water in tandem, you're also giving your teammates a little bit of ability power, movement speed as well.
That wasn't a Gale Force. That was an Ivern Q.
It means we might see some interesting picks, like the Ivern top was one that reared its head in the LEC a couple of times. You could see it out of one of the academies, but I'm not sure how crazy they're willing to get. I'm sure they'll be capable of playing it, but it's about whether they want to actually pull it out is more or less the question.
Thanks, Jamada. I feel very prepared for the patch on this particular week of the NLC. Of course, we have our standings. So let's take a look at Group A to begin with. And I'll bring Gulbug in to talk a little bit about this group because it has been pretty much dominated by XL, but Tricked and Granit have been surprising people, although I think Gulbug would tell you he's not surprised by Tricked. But they have been surprising people in general with the way that they have sort of ended up in this group.
So yeah, Tricked, obviously. I expected them to be up here, but Granit Gaming is the big surprise for me with a 3-1 score. It's a team that's made of 4 rookies. Like, imagine that. It's 4 rookies, and they've been playing phenomenal. They've been upsetting basically every game they played so far, despite like having 1 loss against BTXL, which is honestly fair for them. Nordavent's been a bit hit and miss for me. They were a team that came in with a lot of expectations, so they have some issues they need to fix. And Godson and Dusty, man, I don't know if Dusty's cursed or what they are at this point, but they need some miracles to get back into the playoff run.
They do need some miracles. Dusty, especially with the roster they've got, you would not expect them to be 0-4. They need to turn things around, and this is the week where they need to start turning it around as well. Let's take a look at Group B. And we can have a look at some of the results there. Foxy, if you're comfortable, we can talk a little bit about this one. Fnatic rising at the top, but it is a kind of a joint 3-way tie with Barrage and Singularity also.
Yeah, it's probably the closest group that we have out of the two. And I think, you know, despite Fnatic's lost at the beginning of the split here. I think they've been looking really, really strong. Definitely a team to keep your eyes on, as you would expect with a name like Fnatic. But even Barrage and Singularity have been impressing, as you can see by their score lines. Barrage is an English organization, so of course they're going to be doing great. Singularity has 3 English players, so I just want to say, like,
so this is how we're starting out the day. Okay.
I just think that's quite important to know.
I think clearly very important to note. And we have Denmark versus the UK, and I'm going to remain wholly impartial on the desk here because I'm going to need to be. Otherwise, I feel like we're going to be ganging up on Gulbug a little bit. Let's take a little look back at some of the replays from last week before we start to dive into today as well. And we can break down some of those games. This was that Fnatic Rising versus Riddle game where honestly Riddle didn't really look in it. I mean, this was kind of like Fnatic returning to their form.
Yeah, it is, and it was also Riddle just drafting an extreme late game composition, which haven't really worked out in a meta like this, where it's so focused on the early neutral objectives you can get and the scaling you can get on the Drake stacking.
This is that Tricked Godsent game, and Godsent really not getting much luck in Group A right now. Tricked are looking like the real deal, though. A lot of attention has been put down towards Achu as well in the bot lane. He's been a real performer. Granit versus Nordavind here. Again, Nordavind struggling to kind of like, I think, take control in this group.
Despite everything, Nordavind had an excellent early game, but it's just the fact that when it came to the mid to late game, they started losing out in the team fights. And obviously, going back to the BTXL versus Dusty, that was just a rollover. That was just fight after fight with Dusty losing a member every time, and just exactly what we expected from BTXL.
Yeah,
there's not much that Dusty really could have done in that matchup. But today they're up against it's Nordavind today, I believe it is. So that's 2 teams that have been struggling. Nordavind still haven't found their form just yet. Higher expectations for them given their roster. But either way, if Dusty do want to pick up the first win of the game, I think this is a pretty good matchup for them to do.
Well, speaking of those matches, we don't have to guess them, Foxy. We have a schedule we can show you. We can have a look at today's matches that we've got coming your way. Tricked versus Granit will be that first game of the day. They are equal in standings in Group A, so this will be something that will break that stalemate at the top end of the Group A table. We then have BTXL versus Godsent. I think most people, given run of forms, are thinking XL comes out on top here. Dusty versus Nordavind. I mean, this is actually, for me, relatively tough to call. You would hope that the Dusty would be able to find their way back in, but just given their form, it doesn't feel very likely. And Singularity versus Kova. Singularity should be the expected favorites coming into that matchup, but Kova have surprised, and Kova have put up some good performances in their games. Some of the games that I've seen Kova play, I've really felt like they've been this far away from winning it, and then they just somehow end up losing. A little bit one of those classic Coast situations. They're winning until they lose.
I think it's the inexperience coming from a lot of the players. They are players that played at Telia Masters and failed to qualify the first time, but got a second chance now. So they're some of the better National League players, but when you go up to the step of NLC and the ERLs, there is a difference in the skill level, and that's something you'll have to adapt to along the way. So I don't think a lot of people expected Kova to have success coming into it, but I think they've been showing potential that still can lead to them being a stable team in this league.
I absolutely agree. Of course, though, our first game of the day, that's where we should focus our attentions. It is going to be Tricked versus Granit. And this is the fight for second, as I mentioned. It was the tiebreaker between the 2 teams at the top end of the table. Where are we starting with this then? I'll start with you, Gulbug, but I'd love to open up this discussion across the desk. Where are we starting? Obviously, I think a lot of people saying that I think a lot of people predicting Granit in this, but I believe Tricked are probably just as likely to win. It feels very 50-50 at this point.
It is a very 50-50 game. It's obviously a justified game for second where one of these teams can catch up to the academy teams. I think a lot of it will come from the bot lane down from Tricked. It is Archu who's been pooling massive numbers, and I think he's been evolving as an AD carry. I think he's at his peak right now, and I don't think he's stopping. So for me, I would like to see them play around that guy, have this map be stable around him, and just keep that going.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this matchup because I think for both these teams, this is probably the biggest test they'll face out of entirety of Group A, like you say, battle for second place, because both these teams have played every other team in the group, BTXL being far and away the best team, and then the 3 teams at the bottom, haven't really given a huge amount of pressure onto these 2 teams. So for Granit, Tricked is actually going to be a challenge, but a beatable challenge, and same likewise for Tricked on the other end. So we'll really get a good judge of just how strong these two teams are in this matchup specifically.
So where do we think that each team has a weakness then? Because I think, Gulbug, you mentioned that Granit's early game maybe is a bit shaky from time to time, but when it comes to some of their like late game team fight decision making, that's where they really shine. Is that something that Trick can exploit, or do you think they both have similar weaknesses that actually is going to be a bit of a fiesta for really who comes out on top?
I don't think it's going to be a fiesta. It might be late in the later stages, because that's what happened when we saw Nordavind versus Granit Gaming as well. But both these teams struggled with neutral objectives in the early game. They struggled with priority lanes. We know that Sahira in the mid lane likes to play like champions like Victor, like Rice, and it takes time for those champions to come online as well. But when they come online, that's where you see the strength of Granit. They are a unit, a team fighting unit that just takes every single fight when they feel comfortable. And that's what you can't disrespect on the side of Trick. You can never let the ball go, because if you get the neutral objectives going yourself, get that stacking going, one misstep, and Granit is back in the game. That's what we saw when we saw Tricked or Granit Gaming versus Nordavind as well.
Yeah, and I have some inside information for this matchup as well, because I was chatting to Sahira before we went live, because I actually predicted Tricked for this one, so he's going to be a little bit angry at me for that. And he said he's bored of perma winning, but he'll keep it going for this one.
He's 3-1,
and well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like he's winning, he's winning too much, and he's bored of it. That's what he says apparently, and also that I've heard rumblings that maybe scrim results haven't been going too well for them. And so therefore, as we all know, poor scrim results backstage means perfect results on stage. So I'm maybe starting to regret my prediction here going for Tricked. But either way, Sahira is confident as always. I'm not really sure we would expect anything else out of him. And but yeah, more seriously, I think it's definitely going to be a really fun match to watch. And I think it's a really tough game to call, and we'll have to see what happens in the draft.
Who do you think we need to keep our eyes on as the difference makers in this game? Like, which players are going to be the difference makers for either team when it comes to winning at a certain point in the game?
So I think it has to come down for Sahira in Granit Gaming. He's pulling insane numbers as well. I think he's sitting at the highest damage per minute as well. It's something like 700 or 800. And that's just absurd coming from a mid laner as well, who's usually a wave clear bot in the early stages of the game. So someone like that is someone who offers a lot of pressure when you play against him. And that's something you're going to be feeling on the side of Trick. I definitely think he's one of them.
And on the other side for Tricked as well, I think Archu's been really good. He's a bot laner. He had a good performance last week. He's been pretty consistent all around, and I think AD carry being what it is right now, it's a pretty strong role. And if you've got a strong teammate down there and you can play through that, then it's a good way to get success right now in the league.
Do you think we underrate Granit's bot lane a little bit? It's something that we don't talk about, but I feel like they do have kind of like sleeper performances. I think it'll be an interesting matchup into the Trick bot lane.
So likewise with the rest of Granit, it's something where you're not like, oh, they're getting insane 2v2s. We saw some of that against Godsend, but we haven't seen that against the more experienced bot lanes. And I think a lot of it will come down to, once again, the strength of Granit lies in their team fighting. It lies in their setup. It lies for their ability to punish the mistake you might make as a Trick roster, for example. And that's where you will see Michigo actually coming in clutch, because we've seen his Jhin. We've seen how he can position himself, be a facilitator, but also be a carry that will kite out the fight perfectly, just kiting back.
Well, before we get into this game's champion select, I want to just have a look at the predictions from our casting team today. So let's take a look across the board, including Jamada and Trouble right at the end there. Granit and Tricked, it's relatively 50-50, or as 50-50 as it can be with an odd number of casters on the board. So I do think that reflects how close this game is going to be. Everybody choosing BTXL versus Godsend there. No shred of hope for the underdog team from our casters' perspective. I'm going to quiz Foxy later on the Dusty, but I do think it is closer than maybe the predictions would show. I do think the Dusty roster has got it what it takes, and everybody again has gone for Singularity in that final matchup of the day too, who also have been having a strong performance in the NLC thus far. Now, as I said, we are going to go to a short break. When we're back, we have that champion select for our first game of the night.
closer to our dreams that color bright like autumn leaves. Not looking back, we're not afraid to fly. We're forever young and we'll never die. We're one step closer to our dreams that burn as bright as we can see. We're gonna jump out, climb so high we reach the top of the endless sky. We are gonna run, run, run into the sun. We are gonna run, run, run into the sun. We are gonna run, run, run into the sun. We are gonna run, 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 run. We are gonna run. We are gonna run. Yeah. We are gonna run, run, run into the sun. We are gonna run, run, run into the sun. We are gonna run, run, run into the sun. We are gonna run, 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 run. We are gonna run, run, run into the sun. We are gonna run, 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 run.
Got our first game of the day coming your way here on the NLC. Apologies if you just heard some random music. Wild Rift randomly booted up on my iPad. I literally pressed the button on my iPad and then the music just suddenly came on and I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to quickly turn my iPod off again. Anyway, look, we have that first game of the day coming away. It is going to be Tricked versus Granit, which is obviously going to be a relatively close match. I'm excited to see. I think the draft is going to be very telling too. I believe Sahira has only played Rise and Victor so far. I don't know if he's played anything else, as of yet either. But from the games that I've seen, it's only been Rise and Victor. Statsman Gulburg might be able to tell me here, but
you are correct. You are correct. So last time when he was facing off Nordovin, he was very certain that he could be playing on his 10. He could be playing his 10th best champion still and win, but he didn't bring that out. He still brought out his Victor. So maybe Victor is just his 10th best champion. We don't know. There's a lot of possibilities coming into this one, but there is a respect band coming towards him, and you got to do it. Apparently, it is the Rise.
Yeah, I mean, what Granit will do is they will pick Sahira's champion in first rotation as well. Like, they will first rotate Sahira's champion early on in the draft. We've seen it quite a lot. So I'm wondering whether Tricked are going to be more pointed with their bans before we even get to first rotation from Granit.
Yeah, so it's either going to be Sahira bans or jungle bans. Mainly the main theme that we've seen out of draft recently is a lot of jungle focus. I was going to say, like, I'm not sure where Udyr fits into this because we've already seen a lot of jungle bans historically in the NLC that aren't Udyr. But Udyr has such a good showing in the LCS lock-in tournament that I think teams are starting to pick up on him as well. And there he is. He's been taken away. So that means there is now one extra space, basically, for a team to pick up a different champion if they want to. And it looks like Sahira is going to be forced to play a different champion today as both Rise and Victor are taken off the board.
And that's going to be very interesting. 100% of his champion pool taken away right there. I like the bans that are these junglers that's being put out towards Flipper. We might as well see a Lilia coming out as the last jungle ban because we know that's what he's more comfortable on. Flipper is that kind of jungler who's not per se the Graves and Nidalee kind of jungler. He's more like, I like to be on these champions that can set up in team fights or help out my laners like Titalia here. So that's why I think the Udyr band also come through, because it fits the thematics of the kind of jungler that Flipper are. But there is one girl that has been left open that we've seen a lot in the bot lane as well with the Moonstaff build, and that is just team fight on team fight on team fight. You love the extended team fights, and she just won't die.
Yeah, and that's a flex as well. Like, you can bring that into 3 different positions, whether you want to do it mid, bot, or support. And like you say, though, it does either position. You're going to want to have it as like a team fight comp here. And I think this Hecarim takeaway is really smart, because a champion like Seraphine paired up with the Hecarim, who likes to jump in, be a big beefy boy, and then can get boosted up by the Seraphine. It's a really, really important takeaway. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of like a farm-focused jungler on the side of Tricked. And then you could even chuck in something a little bit cheeky here if you want to on Tricked as well, maybe like an AD mid like the Yone or something. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here because, you know, if you pick him this early, you won't get the flex, and maybe I'm just chatting rubbish anyway. But still, you know, whenever you've got this Seraphine first pick, it really opens up the options for your draft.
I kind of think we need to get some junglers through, at least for Tricked here, just because you've already got 2 junglers, 3 junglers taken away, and then obviously the Hecarim coming through. If you go into the second ban phase, it's going to be a bit harder for you. So we are going to see flippers on something like the Graves now, which is usually a champion where your laners are playing for you rather than you playing for your laners. And to follow that up, the Gragas pick might come in here. It's one of these strong weak side top laners with Grasp of the Undying that's just been basically unbeatable as a weak side. I would love to see that locked in as well, just because it offers you a thematic in a team comp where you say, I want to play for Archu, and top lane is the weak side. But that is also Nilla's blind pick there. He just blind picks it all the time.
Nara's a pretty safe top lane pick. There aren't a lot of champions that can punish Nara particularly well. I'm curious to see what Tamos would go with, because he's been on tank duty a lot. Maybe this is kind of like just guessing that he might be playing a tank, and so having something like the Nars is a pick that can, you know, just take control, have like perma-pro in that top side. And now with locking in the Orianna mid, not really that surprised, honestly. If your champion pool consists of Victor and Ryze, what other kind of scaling, safe, control mage can you pick in the meta? Well, it's going to be Orianna.
Yeah, of course, and I think that we need to see some mid lane bans as well coming out from Granit Gaming. The likes of Syndra wouldn't really surprise me, just because we know it's something that Paulson has been safe on as well. And from the side of Trick, I could imagine that you're going to be starting to banning away some of these AD carries from Mishigu. We've seen him on Facilitators. The Jhin, the Misfortune, that's something he likes, but it's really interesting to see that a high priority AD carry like Kai'Sa is also still left open as well if you want to play this backline composition, or just dogpilers, I think Foxdrops called it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Kai'Sa right now is like an S+ tier pick in general, and an S++ tier pick in Granit's composition, because you have so much dogpiling here. You've got the Galio ulti, you've got the Hecarim charging in, you've got the Shockwave. If you can combo that in with Kai'Sa as well, then that's beautiful. Plus, as well, one of the reasons why Kai'Sa is so strong is basically because she can do it all. And so if you do go completely forward with your team comp, at least Kai'Sa has like some self-pill. She can play safe by herself in the back, so that the Orianna doesn't have to babysit her, the Galio doesn't have to babysit her. And so I do think, like, if you're picking something for bot side, Mishigu here kind of wants to pick something a little bit, perhaps like self-sufficient, something that can play like safer in the back. And I wouldn't even be surprised to see something like Jhin as well. Like, he can't protect it himself with Jhin, but he will at least not have to, because he just sits back, does the curtain call, and supplementary engage.
I was going to mention when the Nara got locked in, I was going to ask you guys, but we obviously never really got around to it. Does Tamos play Camille? Because Camille is a top lane ban that, you actually see quite a lot of in the current meta, and it hadn't yet been picked. So Camille actually banned away, as well as Irelia, 2 picks that do relatively well into Nara, and it looks like the set is getting locked in. Now, this is very likely, it is probably just set top. It's going to be Galio's support, of course. We are yet to see the AD carry pick up from Mishigu, because it's very odd that it's left to R5. Sorry guys, I can't read. I'm not very well. I'm not very well.
Ill.
I thought
He's at that point where it's in his eyes.
I thought it said Mishibu. I was like, okay, I think it says Mishigu. Anyway, I'm ill. Just you got to give me this one today, guys.
All right, fine.
Azir locked in.
I'll let you off.
Gonna be a final pickup here. I'm assuming it's gonna be Seraphine like bot, but I guess we have to see.
Yeah, it will be bot for sure. If it's AD or support, we will find out with the last pick. Just to take it back a bit here, I think that's why they decided to wait with the AD carry lock-in, just because they knew Seraphine cannot go topside. So if you want to know what kind of AD carry you're picking into, you kind of want to see your enemy picking it first here. And it's going to be Archu on what we've seen historically from him now as his favorite champion, I'd say. He loves picking it into Kai'Sa as well. It does fairly well into the Misfortune and the Jhin as well, just because you have that lock CC in your kit, you have that self-peel, and you love to abuse that against these immobile AD carries as well. So if they want to go with Kai'Sa, well, then he's also in a great spot. So I like this pickup coming out from Trick Esports.
My initial impression of the Trick roster so far, though, is that it's quite squishy. Obviously, you've got the Gnar, who'll be relatively tanky, you know, especially if you build Stridebreaker like they tend to nowadays. But just outside of your top laner, and even that is a conditional tankiness because you have to get Mega Gnar first. You don't have a great sense of frontline here from Tricked, who really doesn't want to be like going too far forward when Granit really does want to go forward. They want to be jumping into you, and if you've got a team that wants to jump into you, you have to have some frontline so that you can kind of just dissuade them a little bit and soak some of that engage. On the other hand, though, Granit have decided to go for that Jhin. I mentioned, you know, it's nice because it doesn't put much pressure on Mishigu to have to do anything. So to do anything because he just sits back when his team goes in, opens the curtain call, Bob's your uncle, you're sorted.
Yeah, so we have a lineup that's full range coming out from Trick. You can argue there's a Mega Gnar that can still be used as a disengage tool or engage tool, but what this really will allow you is that with the range composition, you will usually have a priority in the lane. So that means that with this Grave pick, you can play easy around him. So if you can net some neutral objective in the beginning, keep the disengage and open up the map, then you will have a win condition. But if you keep fighting into the dogpile composition with Granit Gaming, they might just take the team fights.
Yeah, I feel like if you can rebut the first engage from Granit, you can actually take control of the fight relatively easily as Tricked. But if you get hit by the wombo combo, you're just donezo and that team can't play. There's nothing you can do about it. Like that's I think the problem that I think Tricked's going to face. They walk that fine line in this game. Let's see how it plays out. We've got Hitbrain and Orcs ready to cast. Hand it over.
Thank you very much, you scoundrel. Go have a lie down, mate. Hello and welcome to the Caster Desk as we're getting ready to start out week number 3 of the NLC with Tricked versus Granit. This game, actually, the only one today that has like real immediate affecting on the kind of stakes and the standings in the groups, as they are both two teams who are 3-1 right now, Orcs.
Yeah, both have been doing pretty good, and I think expectations were somewhat untricked because they had a good split in the summer last year. But I think for Granit, everyone came out, everyone had this thought that they would be bottom the table or at least somewhere around there. And I think they've not only sort of beaten that expectation, because you can not be bottom of the table and still be, you know, doing pretty mediocre, but they've exceeded it massively. They've been smashing it. And if they can beat Trick today, they really solidify themselves as one of the front runners of their group, which would be amazing considering we're only 3 weeks in and the expectations we had coming into the season.
Yeah, honestly, no matter how this goes, this game in particular, I think Granit are coming in as a team that have surprised us all, and they should feel pretty proud of how well they've done. But, you know, they still have a pretty good chance of being able to pull this one off versus Trick. They are close in the standings. They've got a really nice comp here as well. That dogpile comp we talked about so much. And if they do get the opportunity to get on top of Trick, it feels like these team fights could be very, very messy.
Definitely could be. Yeah, that Olaf 100% win rate checks out. I can definitely believe it.
Gore Drinker is a perfectly balanced and stable item.
Absolutely. Kind of concerned, honestly, for Granit in this one, because I think as much as they have these engage tools, I think Trick has so many tools to face up. We are seeing a little bit of a fight already.
Yeah, just a light bit of scrapping. So here we'll dodge away on the Meteor proc from Polson, but yep. A little bit of action to start us off with.
The critical thing when I looked at Trick's composition is if you're engaging at them from one direction, it's so difficult. You have the feathers, you have the Seraphine ultimate, which will chain through a whole team, the Gnar can offer disruption, and also that Emperor's Divide from the Azir. If you're coming at them from one direction, doesn't matter how good your engage is, you're going to struggle. But if Granit can attack from multiple different angles, that's where we can see them excel. That is essential for them to be able to find success. Obviously, if they just stomp lane or something like that, if they just end up getting a massive lead, then sure, whatever. But if it comes down to even gold in those later team fights, I need to see Granit being creative with their engages. Otherwise, I think Trick are just going to have it in the bag.
Yeah. Oh, Tricked actually looking for a cheeky invade here from Flipper. I believe he's been spotted on the ward, so they should have this information to work with for the side of Granit. As Taunt's going to hit Baloo. Just going to be a light trade. This Colossal Smash plus the Taunt and the Aftershock means Dr. Chaos ends out trading equal.
There's actually a
Seraphine
double.
is also a totally balanced and normal champion at the moment.
Yeah, what a strong laner. Definitely necessary when she scales so well.
Yep.
Flipper going to take a bit of a beating as he heads over to cover his jungle, but in reality, there was no real risk. It's very dangerous for Hecarim to try and invade to steal away the enemy red, simply because of the fact he has no flash. And on top of that, his bot lane leashed for him, and his bot lane is ranged melee versus double range. So there's no way you were ever going to have any help from your bot lane. You can see the state of it right now. Hecarim was never in his life going to be able to invade there and steal away the red. So it was a smart decision from Tricked and pretty difficult for Granit to punish. But there is a window here where he can look to cross map.
Oh, that's the cheeky play from Galvin. I really like this. Like you said, give up your red side, but get something in return. So won't be free buffed, although Flipper bolting over, maybe smell something's up. The reset's actually coming in from Paulson, though, so won't have mid lane back up, and Nilly's been shoved in pretty heavily. Flipper will spot Galban out and lands himself the blind. The ghost has been used, and Galban looking for the interrupt. Not going to be able to steal the buff away, and that's Flipper being able to secure it. Galban gets a bit of a dash away with the charge onto the plant. And Galban will be sent back into his jungle. His team were not ready to back him up on the play, and ultimately, he's going to go down massively in the farm department off the back of this.
Yeah, still, the fact that he got out, just get away with murder. Paulson had actually gone for a reset on that time, so a little bit unfortunate. But I have to say, I actually think Flipper misplayed his decision-making there by going to cover his red. Because you saw Sahara beat the crap out of him, and obviously they had vision of him. But there was no reason for Flipper to go and cover his red, because there was no universe where Galban goes for it. And if he does, the bot lane can move, and them plus Paulson is enough to drive him away. So I think his red was never threatened. It was always the blue. Oh, Engage comes in.
Hold on. Blue has to flash away. Dr. Chaos goes for a lot there. Takes a lot of damage in response, and that's first blood for Blue. What's Chaos doing?
I can understand the frustration. You're in a lane like that. You're like, we have to kill the Seraphine, otherwise she's going to scale really well. Unfortunately, Galio, not the best at punishing. Something like a Leona would have done a lot more work there. And then on top of that, you're up against Guardian. You're up against Exhaust. Heal was available. Just hard pressed to find a kill there. And you can definitely look at it and say you shouldn't have gone for it, but I know the feeling of being in a lane that just feels like frustrating because there's nothing you can do.
Oh, we have a little look at it again. It's Dr. Chaos. Remember, doesn't get the full taunt off. It's a very quick one, so the CC just doesn't last that long.
A critical thing as well, because the taunt wasn't that long, Seraphine didn't actually take tower aggro. So without tower aggro, Seraphine wasn't really at risk of dying there.
As we do return out of the replays of the rift, we have a first look at top lane. Tamoz down in CS at the moment, has got a wave built up that will be pushing into him, so it's going to be feeling okay for the moment. It's been a pretty quiet top lane, while all the action's kind of been towards this mid/bot side so far.
Crazy that, isn't it?
Surprise, surprise. Life of a top laner. Nothing happens. Dr. Chaos trying to defend this here. Does have the taunt. That time it's a longer taunt, but they don't have the shockwave available. A great beat drop will just snare everybody up.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that Seraphine's just so tanky. If you're wondering what sort of brought it into the meta, it's the fact that they buffed her shield, so it shields 50% more on her. And remember, she can double shield if the passive's up, so huge amount of defense from that. And then on top of that, she got some base health increases. So she's just so much tankier than she has any right to be, and that's what really brought her to the meta. Because prior to this, she was a little bit vulnerable. A lot of these pressure supports could just kill her, but she's actually so tanky right now. We'll see that tested.
Yeah, we are going to see that tested. Summoner spells it down. The beat drop goes a little bit wide in the chew. Doesn't find anyone with that blade cooler. Ultimately, Blue is going to be able to walk out of half the health.
I mean, that's the thing, yeah. I mean, you take away that extra base HP, you take away that extra shielding. Don't think you would have died there anyway, but it's just, it makes such a big difference in surviving those engages. And Seraphine, as far as scaling goes, she's cream of the crop.
Well, Dragon's going to get picked up. That will be the first one for Tricked. There was a cross map by Galban. Did go and take a camp or two from Flipper. in his jungle, so at least gaining something, but still down in the farm department here. The Hecarim versus Graves matchup not going particularly great for him at the moment. Tammuz going to take a fight with Nilly, but ultimately going to take the bad end of that on the tail out.
Yeah, obviously not too concerned. Has a sustain from his passive. Double Dorans. But again, just being relatively quiet top lane. And honestly, the whole game, other than a bit of invading and the play bot lane, been relatively quiet. And Galban's been keeping up mostly in CS. He's even in levels. He's going to be picked up his farm here. But, oh,
Tammuz gets slammed back, but also slams back himself. Bar starting to build up. Can he get the big shield onto Flipper? Yes, he can. Trying to keep himself going for the moment. Is dodging away as Nilly looking for the interrupt. Finds himself the kill. Galban charging up the charge. Knocking Nilly back. Dodges out in the collateral damage. Galban gonna get killed by the Hyper. And Nilly finds a double kill in the top lane.
Nilly played that one beautifully. Absolutely perfect there. We'll see if Sahira can get anything.
No, he cannot.
And that's a lot of wasted time. Could see Azir push for a plate here. Instead, he's actually going to move down towards bot. Gonna get a replay. So, I mean, it's just played really well by Nilly. He has Mega, great setup. He pushes Tammuz back. And then watch the flash here that comes out. He W's and he flashes so that it follows the flash of Tammuz. Perfect play. And then Galban, I guess his E was on cooldown from a camp. But it looks very strange that he used it so late. Isn't really offering any help to Tammuz. And the Hecarim level 5, very different from level 6. Essentially just a freebie for Nilly there, who's now 2-0. So that top lane that was very quiet, now in a little bit of a disastrous position.
And it just feels like Flipper's able to go wherever he pleases now. Galban hasn't been able to contest the dragon, hasn't been able to contest some of these invades. Now losing the Rift Herald for free. Not been the start that Granit wanted in the jungle. The question is what do they do at this point? Because one of the things we're talking about is this is a trick comp which is effectively entirely ranged. Obviously, you got the Mega Gnar, which becomes melee, but that can also be used to disengage. So ultimately, it's going to be hard for them to actually walk towards Trick. And as Trick get more and more fed, it's going to become near impossible. So the question is when and how did Granit get their opportunity to pull themselves out of this? As they went for the lane swap as well, but the Rift Herald's already gone.
Yeah, no unorthodox. Does mean you missed out on a bunch of farm for Mishigu that Achu just picking up on the bot side. Again, Flipper's just ahead at the pace. A lot of teams opting not to switch their bot lane. Instead, the jungler can just do the Herald themselves, and that's what Trick did. And the question is going to be, I mean, there's not even a question. Granit are going to have to swap their bot lane back down in order to contest this dragon. And so they're just going to waste a ton of time here.
The Chew's actually just really feeling it. Galban getting chunked out of Chew. Knowing two people are about, still comfortable enough to just walk up to the Hecarim and say, you're not taking this ward.
I think for me, the point where Granit can find their way back in the game is definitely the dragon fights. Because with Trick being on blue side, they're essentially going to be corralled into the pit, or at least in front of it. And it forces them into a difficult position where Granit can engage on them effectively. So we could see a scenario where Trick to positioning, they end up being flanked, they end up being attacked from multiple angles. And Granit's engage is there, so that's the avenue I expect for Granit to try and find a way back in the game. But for now, Granit just trying to respond to this Herald.
Yeah, the Herald is going to get the charge off. The wave's going to crash in. Tammuz is looking for it. The taunt's going to come down. The Encore connects into the beat drop, into Baloo, picking up the kill. The tower will crumble as well. And honestly, just Granit looking completely lost right now.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact they swap the bot lane top, they bring a member down to defend, but the Herald had already done its damage there. And then on top of that, they try and engage and...
Wait, Mishigu, you might just be dead here. The wallop's on. He does get him with the flourish, but is able to heal away to safety. And now Mishigu going to try and trade onto Nilly on the tail end from that. And he does a little bit of damage in response. And ultimately, he'll burn Nilly. You know, he lost his Gnar, but he gets that back next time he gets Mega anyway, really.
Yeah, I mean, you should be used on cooldown as a Gnar, so not too much of a concern. See the goal difference, massive in the top lane, massive in the jungle, massive in the AD carry role, massive in the support. Mid lane is still ahead. It's just a lot more marginal, but it's a pretty substantial lead. 5,000 already between these two teams at 11 minutes, and things are looking desperate for Granit, and we're not even 12 minutes in.
Yeah. Tricked really looking like a clear-cut team in this Group A. Wanting to prove that they are number 2 in Group A. Just below XL, who are still undefeated. Granit, a team who were contesting them for that spot, currently not even able to find a single dragon, a single tower, not even a single plate. Tricked are just walking around on this game at the moment.
I mean, it's a fact. We've seen a Chu do this. We've seen Nilly do this. They're on weak side, and they just don't care. They just do not care. They'll just fight Galvin and beat him up and just be like, come at me. And they know he won't because Galvin knows he won't win it.
Galvin just a little bit too far behind. Michigan may be able to find the first plate for his team, although Nilly is around and has got Mega almost built up, so could get a little hairy for him.
They have to
No, the
respect
plate's
it.
going to stand. Wow.
Chu freezing the bot lane. I mean, Tricked are confident. They can slow play this. There's no pressure. They have 2 dragons already, and they could have a soul by 21 minutes, so why risk things?
Ooh, watch for Baloo. Gets the beat drop off into the charm from the Encore. Galvin's making his way over, gets the charge off the 3 members. Here comes the Gallywalt. Not actually going to hit anyone. Nilly caught out by the shockwave. The Azir's there, dodging out on the deadly flourish. A lot thrown down as Granit gets something. Here's Paulson! The slide, the glide, the double kill! Tricked! That was gorgeous!
Beautiful play there coming out from Trick. The response, the defensive play, and then Paulson finds his opportunity to deliver. And Granit, that was their attempt to get back in the game. It's looking pretty rough on the back of that one. Get a replay, and it's just, I mean, Dr. Chaos is caught out, but I like the fact they try and turn it onto Blue, but the problem is he still has Flash. The CC is a bit wonky from the Hecarim. The Fear doesn't connect on the Blue. And then he's on a tower, and you're not chasing on a tower. Azir's there as well. Nilly jumps away, and you just kind of running away with your tail between your legs, but Paulson sees that window, and if it wasn't for those 2 flashes, that could have been a lot more disastrous for Granit.
Really could have been. Now, as we hit the 14-minute mark, we can take stock of where we are item-wise. Paulson's got the
I
lock
like how you
chapter.
couldn't decide between 13 and 14. So you're like,
I actually went to say 15. If I'm going to be honest, I went to say 15 and then realized we're at 14 minutes.
Numbers are hard.
Numbers are hard. Let's have a little look at where we are item-wise. So the Immortal Shield Bow now finished up on to Flipper. There's the Lost Chapter and the Recurve Bow on Paulson. Nilly's got his Stride Breaker, Gale Force on a Chew. Over on the other side, not a single mythic has been finished, just components on the side of Granit. So 6,000 gold lead. Well, 5,200 gold lead, sorry. Pretty big.
Yeah.
Tricked, struggling right
No
now.
other way to put it. It's a
Sorry, Granit struggling, not Tricked, although Chu getting jumped onto. Gale Force has been used, but Chu does still have the ult. Doesn't actually have the ulti, so you get a fair amount of damage, but the shields are down, the blades are cooled, and Flipper should just be able to land this last kill. The Deadly Flourish on to Flipper comes in from Michigan, but it's not enough, and now Sahira has to be careful. Nilly's about to gnaw out. The Shockwave will connect for the moment, but with that Stride Breaker, with the Flash, Nilly just gets a solo kill onto Sahira.
It just feels like Tricked are on another level. They're just outperforming them mechanically, in terms of rotations, in terms of decisions. Considering both teams are 3-1, and considering the excellence we've seen from Granit throughout the tournament, I expected this to be a lot closer. And it's, as of now, still a perfect game, but it doesn't look to be slowing down anytime soon. Tricked are firmly in control of this one.
Yeah, they really are. And Paulson, quite a bit on this wave here. Dr. Chaos is walking forward and going to Justice Punch away to safety. Rift Herald in the pocket of Flipper, so we'll see where he decides to throw that down once he gets back onto the Rift. We can have a little look at this play in the top side.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ambitious. You go in there without information. You don't have backup. Just an overreach from Tamoz. I guess they know Zaya doesn't have Flash or ult, but you need to have numbers. You need to have preparation. You can't just go for these solo plays because Trick, they are matching you pound for pound and exceeding you. It needs to be a play where you're bringing 3 to their 1. If you're going 1 for 1, or like in that situation, 1 against 2, you're just never winning. Not at this deficit. It's 6,000 at 16 minutes already. And they're about to pick up this 3rd dragon. I mean, they are picking it up. Granit are not contesting this. There's just no chance.
And this is what you were saying as well. You're saying that, you know, if Granit need to find a way back in, it is through these dragon fights, but they're not going to get the opportunity. Chu Gale forces forward. Tamos trying to chase him down is going to hit the face breaker onto him, but the feathers have been starting to get laid out by a Chu, and the rest of the team are coming in. A great blind into the beat drop. The feathers come down. Tamos goes for a slam, but a Chu ultimately will survive, using the Feather Storm to keep himself from getting targeted anymore. And that is Tamos going down, meaning third dragon should just be easy pickings right now for Tricked.
I'm going to be honest, Jake. I don't think it mattered whether Tamos was up or not. That dragon was easy pickings regardless.
Oh, we had 2 mythics, by the way, coming in. Gale Force and Trinity Force. Lots of forces here.
I just don't think it matters at this point. You really need Trick to be starting to make mistakes here. You need people to get caught out. The problem is, I talk about the things that Granit needs. They need numbers advantages. They need people getting caught out. That's what Tricked is doing. We just saw a three-man play bot. We saw Tamos getting caught out. We need the opposite to happen if Granit are going to get back in this game. But right now, Trick's going to throw down the Herald mid. 3 dragons in pocket, 4 members. And Granit can't really do anything but watch.
Question is, are they going to actually force the second charge out? It looks like they're walking up. They've got the blind as well. So yeah, the second charge is going to come down. Big chunk out of that mid lane tier 2 as well. Along with taking that last, second to last outer turret as the top lane turret. Hanging on with a sliver of health, although nearly should be able to finish this on up fairly soon. Just clean stuff from Trick, to be honest. 9-0. Could be on track for a perfect game.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw the Moonstone come in for the Seraphine. There's so much survivability on this team now. So much utility, so much healing. And the thing is, Granit aren't in a position where they can comfortably afford Grievous Wounds. Because 800 gold is a lot of money when you're 7k gold down almost. And realistically, dragon fights, I'm not sure it's happening. I think you just have to give it up. At this point, your deficit's so big. It might have to be the Baron Hail Mary. You hope Trick to go for a bit of a dodgy Baron. You go for a team fight. Chances are you lose, but it's your best odds in this game. Yeah, they are really in the bottom of a pit right now.
It's interesting because it's one of those dragons that you could actually give up. It's lovely to get a Cloud Soul when you've got a Hecarim on your team. Galio also really likes getting the ultimate cooldown reduction, but outside of that, like, it's not the most impactful dragon. It's not like it's an Ocean. It's not like it's a Infernal. Something that will really change the state of the game and kind of make it feel nigh and impossible to start winning fights. Cloud will be a nuisance, but it won't be game-changing. So Hero looking for a big shockwave here. Will catch onto 2. Galvin comes in for the charge. They're actually looking for that big wombo combo and already found 1. A shutdown has been picked up as well as a Chu now running for his life. Tamos on the flank, but Chu is going to be able to get out away to safety. And the dreams of a perfect game have been smashed as Granit finally forced their way into a fight and get a positive trade for themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't make a huge difference to the state of the game, but it was definitely needed for Granit. Tahira finding Trick, feeling a little bit overconfident, a little bit disrespectful, and understandably, you're that far ahead, you feel invincible. Shockwave and the Hecarim combo with Galio on top was just perfectly layered, and it didn't leave much room for Trick to escape that one.
Well, unfortunately, I said it doesn't really change too much as they're not really going to be... They're not in position to take any towers, they're not in position to contest any objectives as the Baron's only just spawned, and they're not quite strong enough to be able to do that yet. No dragons on the map, so it is just 2 kills into Galben, the player who, to be fair, had a really rough start. Now actually got a CS lead over Flipper with that double kill as well. I'd like to have a little look at the individual gold, and we can see where we are with there. So gold's actually dead even between Flipper and Galben right now. Mid lane, pretty big discrepancy, 900 gold there. AD carry, it's actually just really horrible.
So I'm not too concerned about the AD carry gold lead, in all honesty. What I am concerned about is the AD carry level difference. There's a level 13 Xayah and a level 10 Jhin. That like, you can, the gold isn't really actually that relevant compared to that. Like, obviously having an extra IM, great for Chu, but the fact you're 3 levels up is humongous. It's worth so much gold in and of itself. And he has just got a level, so it's now only 2 levels. But the fact that a Chu was left alone by himself, playing weak side and able to get so much solo farm has really done absolute wonders for him. And this Xayah is super fed, super farmed. And that's the big thing. Galvin's been farming to catch up, and he's actually overtaken Flipper. But the problem is that the reason why is Flipper's been giving his resources to his carries. He's been giving camps to Polson and Chu, and that's why they're elevated so much. So in this position, sure, Galba might be stronger than Flipper marginally, but in comparison with the teammates, you're being eclipsed. A Chu is just stronger than probably anyone in the game right now.
Yeah, that is a scary chicken. Right now, as the Chew will be catching on this mid wave.
He's nearly level 14. It's not even like he's just hit 13. He's nearly level 14.
Next wave.
Yeah. It's pretty rough. Pretty rough to see. Chew definitely someone who uses resources well. And speaking of that,
might not even need the wave. It's Dr. Chaos close to going down. Does get caught out by the end of the blade cooler. Tower finally crumbles in the top side, and Nilly looking for Galben. Galben does have the movement speed and goes for the charge in. Tamos looking for Nilly. Nilly not about to charm out, but a massive encore comes in. Tamos is charmed for the moment, puts himself in all of everyone, and that is just going to be the kill. Michigu getting chased down by a Chew as well, but Michigu should be able to get away safely. Granit thought they found their pick onto Nilly, and ultimately they do not. And Polson, in the meanwhile, with his Sand Soldiers, will be able to take this dragon down.
Yeah, I mean, it's uncontested soul is the crazy thing. I'm not sure what that play was. I'm going to be honest. Galban could have gotten out. Like, that, he absolutely could have gotten out by all means. And instead he was like, yo, let's fight. Didn't have the information, didn't have the numbers. Ambitious, and ultimately just cost them more and more. 6,000 the gold lead for Tricked right now.
We can have a look at it again and have a deeper dive into what the hell was going on.
Yeah, so now he could have just ulted out and he's gone, but instead he goes for the play, and it's just an overreach completely. The TP from Sahara is really late, not to his fault. I think the decision to go in was very late, but it's just, you know, they were like, oh, we might as well fight this, but it's like, if you don't have the setup for your plays, it's not going to go well. You're going into the enemy territory, you don't have the vision control, you don't know where the enemy team is, they're miles ahead of you in terms of gold. I can understand in positions like this where you're so far behind, you start to go for desperate plays, but you have to at least pick one that's going to have a good percentage of working. And we've seen one come out from Granit so far this game. Be interesting to see if we can find another. I think Tamos is finding the percentage of him beating Nilly in a 1v1 is next to nil.
And ultimately, Tricked are the ones who have control of this river, of this Baron area. And with how fed a Chew is, this Baron will go down very, very quick. Michigu has now finished up the Collector. And the whip is there for Tomas. So building towards the item that makes you immortal, which I've forgotten the name of because I hate Gold Drinker. There we go.
Bounce time.
But I even think with a Gore Drinker, Tamos may struggle to actually survive versus the likes of the Tricked comp. Going to pick up this crap for themselves. So they've got the movement speed, they've got the vision. Will be spotted out by the Scryers. Galvan does actually have a technically better smite as he has got the level, and Polson may just find himself chunked out. The curtain call's coming in, and members are going to get chunked. The hero's looking for that flank. As the Chew's looking for it. The charge comes over the wall. Tower's going to go down. Shockwave only lands onto one. The Enclave is going to be big, though. In comes Dr. Chaos. Michigu trying to just get the rest of his team out there. Chaos has to flash. And the teleports are coming in. Dr. Chaos now running to the wind as Nilly's looking to hunt him down. Won't be able to find it. And Tricked, they don't even care about the kills. They're just going back for Baron.
Honestly, that was a little bit messy from Tricked, but it just doesn't matter. There's so much safety, so much gold lead towards them that Granit just, it didn't matter. Really didn't matter that Flipper got really low, that Polson got really low. They had enough sustain coming out from the Seraphine. They're able to disengage. They're able to find the re-engage. And there's one on the exit for Polson. Baron in hand, gold lead now 9,000, and they've already got soul.
Messy stuff. Let's have a look at this again then.
But yeah, I mean, this is messy. They're on vision. Polson's getting chunked out because he was in a rough position. Flipper's getting chunked out here by the Gen ult. But again, it just doesn't matter. Ton of healing comes in. The shockwave isn't enough to even kill the support. And then the engage starts to get a bit botched by then. But like, realistically, Tricked weren't really at massive risk there. They're just so far ahead. And Granit are so starved for gold.
I feel like you could even see, even if they've been equal in gold or even a little bit closer in gold, that fight could have been a lot better.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it looked like the call wasn't really made like in any kind of like organized sense, because Dr. Chaos actually ulted quite late. If you were prepared for that, he would have ulted the moment Galban's charge would end. And then he would have really split the fight up in multiple fronts with the Galliot, but the Galliot was then used reactively as the re-engage came in. So you can see they weren't quite ready to go for that. The shockwave is going to come down as the charge actually used as well. They're looking to get Poulsen, but Poulsen shuffles Galban back, and Galban will lose his life as Michigu jumping in forward. The encore lands onto Dr. Chaos into the taunt, but that is the shutdown picked up over the wall by Michigu. Down goes the Azir. Doesn't really matter though, as Michigu only got Timels with him to keep himself alive.
Well, they got
he may just
Poulsen.
lose a lot right now.
They got Poulsen, but 3 for 1. Not really the best trade in any scenario.
Oh!
Gotta be careful there. Tomo's now looking for the flank.
Yeah, he's going to get the curtain call onto a couple of people, but they don't even
Level
care.
16
Tamos is
Zaya.
getting chunked so heavily by a Chew. Oh my lord.
Yeah, I mean, it's a level 16 Zaya already. Nearly 3 items as well. There's just really nothing that Granit can do. There weren't many windows after the early game that came out from Tricked, but even then the execution may be a little bit rough from Granit, but if they're going to go for a last-ditch effort, needs to be soon.
Tamos has actually teleported in and run away, so the fight is over.
Yeah, I actually think that was probably the last time we get to see Granit make a play, because realistically, we have Elder spawning in 50 seconds, and it's going to be very difficult for Granit to make their way over and have an even fight in the river. At least in their base, you can look for things like the TP flank from Tamos that came in. You can use the base walls to find better flanking angles. But now that that's out the equation, now that the focus is on this dragon, I think Trick move in, they get control, maybe find a pick like this.
Chaos is dead.
Yeah, Chaos is dead, so now it's going to be an easy pick up the Elder Dragon. And once Elder is in hand with this gold lead as well, it's as good as done.
Tamos has to flash away from Nilly, but he lands a stride breaker, puts the shield out, the slams are there, and Poulsen will secure the kill. Elder may not even be necessary to close this game out, to be honest.
I mean, that's the thing, is Granit were desperate to try and stop it happening. They know the game's over if Elders get taken, and Trick used that. They used the leverage of that neutral objective to bring Granit out their base, get a couple of picks, and now they're looking towards the end. Shockwave, it's Pope. Really doesn't have that much threat on the Machu.
Kayle forcing forwards. He's going to get chunked out pretty heavily here. A couple of shots will land, but Flipper charges forward to make sure that that fourth shot isn't going to get curved onto him. Gavin comes in for the charge. Everything layered in. This is that last ditch effort. This is the one chance they have. But the Chew is not caught ultimately. And that means Chaos will lose his life. Nilly comes in, gets the slam, gets the wham. And down goes another member. Tricked. 3 versus 5 right now in their favor, as they are just going to run through what remains of the Granit roster. Zahira, the only standing member, no ultimate available, hasn't really even got the health to work with here. The Nexus goes down, and Tricked secure themselves second seed in Group A.
Trick looking like a well-oiled machine, and I think if we'd seen this game at the start of the season, no one would have been particularly surprised. But considering the run Granit has had, considering they're equal in scoreline to Tricked prior to this game, people expected to be closer. I did. Definitely expected that one to be closer. And I think Granit's early game was something they'd been a little bit weak on, and typically they'd been able to bounce back from that. But Trick just gave them no room to breathe.
Yeah, that was honestly just a suffocating game for Granit. They felt like they didn't really have the opportunity to do much there. And ultimately, Tricked come out ahead, a near perfect game. Not quite there, but it was bloody close. Guys, we're going to throw to a quick break, and when we're back, we'll let our casters break that down a little bit more. See you in a second.
Beyond the lover's bloodshot eyes, another ocean opens wide. Our love is sick but still alive. Then all our hearts would radiate and melt the sadness we create. Only then could we survive. Let's turn around before fight, still we watch it fade away. And all our prospects wearing thin, we don't know where to begin, or where we might have gone astray. We crave, we strive to feel alive, singing hey, this love is all around us, this love is all around us. Wait for tomorrow, lay in sorrow, along your waste. This is no fate. Singing hey, hey, this love is all around us. This love is all around us. This love is all around us. This love is all around us.
I'm muted. Welcome back. Tricked absolutely dominated Granit in our first game of the day. Sorry, I muted myself because in the background, all you could hear constantly was Rupert going, ah! So I had to mute myself for a little bit. Anyway, Trick dominated Granit in our first game of the day. It didn't really even look close. It was a brilliant game from Tricked. Now, for a change of pace today, because my voice is not feeling 100%, we have got Foxy D doing the interviews, and we are going to be chatting to Paulson from.
Thank you very much, Scoundrel. Paulson, mate. Congratulations on the win. Thank you for taking the time to interview me today.
Yeah, thank you.
So you were 3-1 going into this matchup, but so was Granit. Were you kind of doing anything different maybe in your prep, thinking about this team could be another successful team, might give you a run for your money?
Yeah, not really. We didn't really do anything different in prep. We just really wanted to make sure that that they didn't get to do their drawn out late game style. So we prepared really well for that, because we thought we were a way better team and we should be very easy, not easy win, but as long as we don't throw, it would be somewhat easy. So in that way we prepped a little bit different.
You said it would be somewhat of an easier win. Were you expecting a closer game? Because that did look pretty easy for you guys.
Maybe a little bit, but I mean, it went as expected for me, and I was happy with the performance of my team. So yeah,
nice. So I want to ask you a little bit about Sahira, your opposite number from Granit's side. He's been getting a lot of hype. He got MVP as well at one point last week. And he's been very confident going into his games. What are your thoughts on Granit's mid laner?
Yeah, I mean, this was the first game we were like thinking about, can he play other champs than Victor or Rise? So we just tested it out and banned those two. And yeah, I mean, he's a very cool guy and very funny, so I can see why he's like likable. And I don't know if he's that great. He's pretty good, I think, but yeah, I mean, I think he's pretty good, but yeah.
Yeah, well, when I ask you about his skill and you say, yeah, he's a nice guy, I feel like that's kind of that's kind of saying something.
I mean, that was not in a bad way, but yeah.
No, it's right. I'm just taking the mic. I've been quite impressed actually watching Tricked. I did predict you guys to win this game, and part of that is because of your shot calling overall. I think as a team you've been quite clean, clean shot calling. Who's that come down to on your squad? Who's it making the shots?
Well, Flipper is main shot caller, but we all chime in with good suggestions and agree on plays, but usually Flipper is like a final decider, so I think he's doing a great job and it's nice to play with him.
It's always jungle def, mate. Always jungle def.
Yeah, his jungle is pretty unbalanced.
Yeah. Last question before I let you go here. I want to talk about the elephant in the room, or I guess more like the bear in the room, Udyr. He's getting a lot of rise in priority now with the after the LCS lock-in tournament that we saw, and he was banned this game. What are your thoughts about Udyr? What's kind of impact he's going to have moving forward?
Udyr is interesting champion. I hope he will get nerfed really fast because he's so boring. Actually, he's not interesting at all. I think he's gonna rise a lot in priority, sadly, and yeah, I mean, that's just really great jungle champion, and cannot wait to play more with it.
You see, he's next in line for the update. Did you see that? Hopefully that comes sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that comes very soon, I hope.
Yeah. Well, Polster, mate, congrats again on the win. Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Scoundrel, back to you, buddy.
And back to me, and you're already here. So there we go. Oh wow, Foxy, that was quick. There's a certain sense of like nostalgia for me seeing Udyr in pro play. I kind of like seeing Udyr in pro play. I just like a simple champion. We just press buttons and he just goes fast. Like that's all he does. It's great. It's nice that those kind of champions still have a role somewhere.
Makes the difference in League of Legends with all the other champions that you see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's healthy for the game because the skill expression on these kind of champions is a little lower than the rest, but it is nice to have those kind of champions where, you know, there are champions that have these extremely mechanically intensive kits alongside them. So, it's quite nice to see that. Now, we would usually have Professor Gulborg, but unfortunately, due to some tech issues, we are going to have to put Professor Gulborg back on the bookshelf and bring him out. Talk about it.
Because going into this game, we were talking about this trick against BTXL. Okay, these guys had a lot of issues with their early game. They struggled to play the priority, but this game, 5 ranged lanes, it's really easy to get priority with. An early lead for Flipper in the jungle, and you just kept stacking those dragons on top of each other. It doesn't help Granit's situation that they're just getting outplayed in lanes as well. We see the bot lane with a 2v2. We see the top side also getting a kill, but at the same time, we're just playing the play that should have been it. Okay, so the reason why I would have chosen this, you're not going to get any drawings, you're not going to get any smilings, flags, arrows, you know the drill, but reason for this play is that it kind of looks like this is the way back from Granit in the game. We know that Granit likes to play these kind of team fight skirmish composition where that's the way to get back, but you know what? Poulsen, the Danish mastermind, ain't having none of that, getting 2 into the Sarima Sofrel. 2 of the others, Sahira here and the Jin, is just forced out with the flashes as well, and that means next neutral objective with that spawns, you're gonna be down gold from those kills, you're gonna be down tempo, and you're also gonna be down summoner spells, and that kind of just puts them on soul point for free. So not only did Trick play their own win condition, but they also beat Granit out in their skirmish win condition.
Yeah, and I think a thoroughly impressive performance from Trick, really cementing themselves at least the second best team in this group, and obviously still chances to take the fight to XL later in the season. Now, we of course have more games coming your way. Speaking of XL, they will be our second game in the day. When we come back from the break, we'll prepare for BTXL versus Godsend.